Anderson, and welcome to my site, Apologia. Apologia is dedicated in highlighting many of my Facebook friends. I'm speaking with Laura Casaletto, aka God. I have known Laura for many years. Laura is an artist, an activist, an atheist group organizer, and donates as a leader for the poor and homeless. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, Steve.
Well, it's good to talk with you. These talks are really these conversations with my Facebook friends have been really fun, and so I was looking forward to talking with you. Anyhow, why don't we just start right out? Perhaps we can start with, you started an atheist group or were part of an atheist group and then started your own group. So if you could give me a short journey on uh, why you are not a God believer or atheist or whatever term you want to give yourself.
Well, I always hate any label anyone gives me because you feel like it shrinks you down. But I was never really an atheist. I just have never believed in any God that anyone tries to dish out.
Sure.
Um, but there was a big atheist group here in Grand Rapids when I moved here, which was over 20 years ago. And I started going to their talks. They were fascinating. They had scientists, psychologists, historians. I remember a Buddhist talking, and the audience was full of good mix of very old and young people, all ages, and they would pose interesting questions. And it's very rare to come across such an intelligent and educated audience as that for anything. So,
Well,
yeah.
I agree with you. That was my experience too. There was a cross section of ages. The other thing I liked, you notice a lot of those kind of groups, they were mostly male dominated. There were quite a few women in the group, and that was very good too, because there was a lot of perspectives and educated people and perhaps not so educated people, but it was a cross section of people, and the topics were wonderful. So I agree with you 100%. So what happened with that group, and how did you form your own? And tell me about that.
Well, the group was smaller when I first started. They were local, but they merged with a national organization, and they started getting shots called from above on how they should behave and branding. They needed to brand themselves. And I found them drifting more towards being aggressively and dogmatically atheist. They
Okay.
defined what atheism was, and they said, I think there were like 7 different rules in their little credo, and that you were supposed to sign up to. And right away I went, wait a minute, nobody tells me what to think. This is free thinking, right?
Exactly.
We're told how to think, and one of them was rejecting anything that was mystical. I can't think of the exact wording, but metaphysical. There was
Yeah.
nothing. If it wasn't provable, it didn't exist. And I just went, I'm not down with this one.
Right.
But they couldn't find anybody to run their little Sunday group, which was one of their several weekly things that they were doing. So I got in to do that and just started playing with it and having a lot of fun. And not me, but the group. We'd have fun, and I'd think about it.
It was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. Yes.
Yeah. And eventually I got kicked out. They didn't like that.
Well, you got kicked out for not towing the line, girl.
Yeah, they didn't like that I called myself God. They tried to tell me I was a racist, which is crazy if you know me. Because
excuse me,
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
the farthest thing from a racist I know.
I'm obnoxious, but not that
Ah,
way.
you're not
Um,
that either.
and they tried to imply that I was insane, which I just feel was
Well,
low.
now that,
Yeah.
of course,
Anyway,
we're all a little,
yeah. They,
whack.
they sort of like excommunicated me, which is fun. And I thought I was done. I said, okay, fine. But then people from the group said, why are we stopping? We have a good time. We're friends. We get
Yes.
together, share
Yeah.
ideas. Nobody's prickly. So you can just sort of, like people would really reveal themselves, that somebody said they were sexually molested in the
Yes.
context of conversation and said, this is why I think what I think, or let me tell you about my experience and add light to this. And,
Sure.
I walk only one path in my life, but I found myself walking many paths through other
Yes.
people. And
Right.
that goes also for really academic things too, where there's not just one true way. There's many possibilities. And
Well, then, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Tell me about your group, the name of the group, where it meets, when it meets.
oh, thanks.
Yep. You paused on me. Are
Free
you
thought
back?
today. It's
Start again. You paused on me. So go ahead and start again.
Our group is called Free Thought Cafe,
Okay.
as in a salon, a cafe, and we meet at a bar, the Hideout Brewery, on Sundays at 5 p.m. We're on Meetup and Facebook. So sometimes we don't meet there because we've tried having a Socratic walk. We've tried having a songwriting competition. We have parties sometimes. We do a lot of things.
That's great.
To cut, just to make it, I don't know, rewarding in many ways, as many ways
Yeah.
as we can. It's
Yeah.
the experiment that keeps going.
So what's the topic this coming Sunday?
Oh, it, it's called
Something about
Losing
losing
Our,
your religion or something?
yeah, which is an REM song.
Oh, yes. I love it. Love the
I
song.
snatched that because it's memorable if it's already in your brain.
Sure.
And because I was thinking about kind of coming full circle, uh, because the atheists are very dogmatically anti anything that they can't measure and prove and isolate.
Okay.
And I started finding a lot of chinks and cracks in that
Sure.
because, while you're in situation A, you yearn for situation B. But once you get over to situation B, you find yourself yearning for some things from situation A, right?
Makes perfect sense. Would you agree that many atheists that you've met tend to be just as dogmatic as many religious people are?
They excommunicated me, so I definitely think so.
Okay, well, that's fair. That's a good answer. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I want you to talk because Steve is interesting.
Okay. All right. Well, so this topic that you've come up with, losing your religion, what is your thoughts in what prompted you to bring this subject up? Are you reassessing some of the religious constructs from the past, or share with me your thoughts?
Well, I have a question, which is, if religion goes away or loses most of its power, what will we lose of value with that? And I don't mean physical things like churches or priests. I mean more metaphysical things that we take for granted, perhaps. And so I kind of wanted to list them. And then I would go to the group and say, what do you guys think we'll lose? And
Sure.
hear what everyone has to say. But I definitely thought unconditional love is something that's illogical and it doesn't fit the capitalist model.
Hmm.
but that is a notion in religion, strong in religion. So we're going to kick a couple of legs out from under unconditional love, I think.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
that seems like a loss. I wrote down, I think, 4 over here. How you fit into the larger picture.
Okay.
Um, the notion of personal responsibility and justice without religion to temper that, it's going to look different. And I
Yes.
know as a determinist, you might have something to say about that.
Well, I do. You and I have had conversations, and many of the people in the group push back on determinism, and understandably so, to accept the fact that basically you are puppetry in a sense. You did not select being born. You did not select your parents. You did not select your upbringing. You did not select any of the neurotransmission and the organic stuff in your brain. So basically, you have very little control over much. Now, you and I have always gone around and around about responsibility and how can one be responsible if everything is determined. And I've always separated responsibility from accountability, and I don't think you're responsible for hardly any of your behavior, but to keep society intact and for people to get along, you have to be accountable for your actions. And that's how our society can remain cohesive. Does that make any sense?
Oh, I try. It's something that I think about from all sides and I circle around it. I think we all really do, because how do we deal with criminals if they can't help themselves? How can we punish them or change that? It's a problem, right? And oh, there was something I wanted to say more about it. Um, I wanted to connect that to the whole idea of um,
Well, look in the
I
past
think
how behaviors were, uh, for example, people had leprosy because they were taken over by evil spirits, and we always pointed the fingers at anyone that either had physical anomalies or behavior that was not socially accepted. And I think there will have to come a point in time where we're going to have to grow up and recognize that we're really not responsible for our own behavior. And that doesn't mean that there aren't social techniques that one can learn to be more socially accepted, but the only thing we can do is make people accountable for their behavior. To me, that's a distinction, but I don't want to repeat myself. And so, um, anyhow, that's kind of my shtick on determinism and how this whole thing plays out with spiritualism, religion, and how we need to get back to some of the concepts about narratives and how the narratives of old, some of the precepts of the Bible, we can get back to some of those basic things to give us uh, a foundation. Is that is that all fair or
Bible,
I'm
eh,
sorry?
the Bible. Well, I like Jesus, but the Bible, ooh.
Okay,
Um,
not a good text to uh, guide one morally.
Jesus is cool, but you're kind of making the point that I want to make to some degree, that we do make choices. And what I want to add to the choice making is that uh, what kind of a dream or a vision are you choosing to head towards,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
So if you have that notion, or if the group that you're in or your people that raised you have some kind of a notion that they're heading for, if it's a good, beautiful dream, it's going to work better, right?
Yes.
Can I say that? I mean, it could be a ridiculous, absurd thing that's going to get you hit by a truck or killed, but like, love everyone, they'll love you back. That isn't going to work in the real world. Somebody will mug you. But we don't want to make choices only based on hard logic. That's why I brought up
Sure.
unconditional love.
Sure.
Um,
I agree with you.
some balance there.
That makes
So
perfect sense.
let's keep some beautiful things going, despite the fact that they may be illogical, because science can't find everything that exists. It
So
will
how do
never.
we so how do we get there, Laura? If we're going to poo-poo the Bible, which it sounds like you want to poo-poo, and we can't use logic and education as a framework to learn to love each other. What is the impetus? What do we use to uh, not force us, but to start working in the direction that you want us to go, which is to love each other? How do we go from A to Z there, or how do we make those initial steps?
If I take a shot at this, will you take a shot at it?
Well, but I don't see. I don't look at a direction that we can go. I would submit that humans are always going to have good intentions and bad intentions. So all we can really do is just kind of work along the edges. So my plan of causing more love in the world to me would be, from my perspective, nonsensical. It makes no human behavioral sense based on history. But it's not my point, it's yours. So I can't defend it, but why don't you try to?
Okay, first let's try to help Steve.
Oh
um,
gosh,
I
that's
I understand your point of view, but I don't see how your point of view will give you peace of mind or help you move forward. I think my point of view is a healthier one for me as a little
oh,
organism.
sure.
Like, to think it's a random world of chaos, I think it's a bit too hard to deal with. But
Okay,
from my point of view, um, human nature is very important when you're trying to read the blueprint. This is the
sure.
limits of human nature. You can understand motives if you look at that, and then you don't do this blaming thing, like you're kind of saying it's in the past. Like, we used to say that leprosy was caused because of demons or something, but we still do that. I hear people say, oh, he has cancer, and then they try to find out what he did wrong to get
Ah,
cancer.
okay.
Is an unfair question, right?
Right, right.
Um, yeah. So I think if we seek to understand the nature of being human, then we have a really good leg up on how we get the behavior we want out of ourselves and those around us. We program ourselves. A question I like to ask is, what is it good for future Laura? If present Laura does this, that will benefit future Laura.
Ah,
And
okay.
that would do well for me.
Right. Not only improve future Laura, but also improve the lives of people around you that you communicate with and have a relationship with. So it's not only you that's actually trying to work on yourselves, but that indirectly also helps other people that are in your life, as an example.
Very easy to talk to you when you make half my point for me. I appreciate that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I wasn't trying to do that.
Oh,
I was just agreeing with you. Well, unfortunately, this 15 minutes is already up to 20, and you
no,
know, and I know that that we can talk forever with each other and enjoy our conversation. Why don't we give me your final thoughts about what you see developing in the near term? Do you see, are we on a trajectory or a path that you seem to look as though it's perhaps constructive? Or on the other hand, are you looking at a path that we may be going down before we go up? I mean, what is your sense of our trajectory?
I think that I'm a tiny speck and don't have any control over it. I mean, uh, we're going to fill up this planet and trash it hard because we never listen to the wise voices among us until we're desperate, right?
That's
That's what.
true.
So uh, that means that I can let that go and not stress too much. We're going to do terrible things to the environment, etc., and we're going to wage wars and all. I accept it. It's tragic. Um, it could go differently. Some crazy wild thing can happen. So what I do then is create value around me, and I'm on a continual quest to learn more about the things that I feel uh, enable the story that I would like to see humans live.
Okay.
So I've been studying mushrooms. I have a license in mushrooms from the state. I study trees. I've been planting trees. I've been working at the city level.
Yes.
The Free Thought Cafe. We have a charitable arm, which again
Yes.
I learned quite a bit about what it means to do something charitable, how it pays off, and how it doesn't. And so I'll be studying that further as I do it, because doing things is much, there's a great deal more fine-grained things you learn than just hearing someone talk about it. So you go try a thing, you get a lot more out of it than just hearing someone tell you. And that's a crazy way to live. And that's how I like living. I like it to be continually expanding and kind of revolving around a center that I love.
Well, I would never ever want you to change it all. I love you dearly. We've been friends for a long time. I wish you the best, and it's always good to talk with you. I'll probably see you Sunday at Free Thought Cafe, and thank you so much for being a good friend and having these conversations. So. You have a great rest of the week.
Thanks for talking with me, Steve. I like what you're doing. Keep up your good work.
All right. Thank you so much. Talk to you later. Okay. Bye.